Welcome to our channel, where real-life stories come alive. Today, you'll hear a gripping tale of love, betrayal, and consequences. A reminder that every choice has a price. Sit back, relax, and let the story unfold. A cold New York winter night wrapped the city in its icy blanket. Ethan Miller sat in his spacious office on the 33rd floor of the Empire State Plaza building, gazing out at the glittering skyline through the panoramic windows. His tech company, NextSphere, had just closed a multi-million-dollar deal that was about to take them into the international market. His wife, of 10 years, Claire, was supposed to attend the celebration, but at the last moment she canceled, citing urgent work in the marketing department. Ethan didn't think much of it. He was used to the fact that his wife was as much of a workaholic as he was. Their life was perfectly planned. Their 8-year-old son, Matthew, attended an elite private school. On weekends, they went to their lake house in upstate New York. Twice a year, they traveled abroad. It seemed nothing could disturb this well-oiled machine of family happiness. Everything changed 3 months ago, when a new client appeared at the company, Ryan Harris, a handsome man with impeccable manners and a mysterious smile that instantly drew the attention of every woman in the office. His company, Innovatech, was planning a large-scale partnership with NextSphere, and Ethan appointed Claire as the lead on the project. "Honey, this is an amazing opportunity for my career," Claire had told him over dinner, brimming with enthusiasm. Ethan had only smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and felt proud of her professionalism. The first warning signs appeared quietly. Claire began working late more often than usual. Her phone started lying on the table face down more frequently. She began paying more attention to her appearance, buying several new business suits. Claire's best friend, Kelly Simmons, was the first to notice something was off. At their regular coffee meetups at a little cafe in Soho, she happened to see Claire quickly hide her phone when a message came in. "Everything okay?" Kelly asked. "Of course, just work stuff," but the blush on her cheeks betrayed her. Ryan played his role skillfully. At business meetings, he was the perfect professional, but the looks he gave Claire were becoming more and more suggestive. After meetings, they would accidentally end up alone in the elevator together. Their conversations grew increasingly personal. Ethan, immersed in expanding the company, didn't notice these changes. His days were filled with meetings, negotiations, and strategic planning. He was genuinely happy for his wife's success with the new client, never suspecting that each meeting brought her one step closer to destroying their family. Little Matthew, far too perceptive for his age, started asking questions. "Dad, why doesn't Mom read me bedtime stories anymore?" Ethan brushed it off as her being busy with work, but deep down, he began to feel an uneasy tension. That evening, when Claire canceled her attendance at the celebration, Ethan decided to surprise her. He bought her favorite peonies and drove to the marketing department's office. But her office was empty, and the receptionist told him she had left 2 hours earlier. That was the first moment Ethan felt a shadow of doubt. He pulled out his phone and opened the family location tracking app they had installed for safety after the kidnapping of a business partner's child. Claire's phone showed her location at a large shopping mall. Ethan decided to check. Parking his black BMW X7 in the underground garage, he walked the mall floor to floor, but found no sign of her, even though the app insisted she was there. Only later would he find out that Claire had left her phone in a storage locker at the mall, while she herself, well, that's another story. That night, Ethan returned home late. Claire was already in bed, or pretending to be asleep. The peonies remained in the car and eventually withered, just like his faith in their perfect family life. Ahead of him lay a devastating revelation that would turn his world upside down and make him question everything he had believed in for the past 10 years. The morning started like any other. Claire woke up before the alarm, trying not to wake her husband. In the bathroom, she stared at her reflection for a long time, searching for traces of guilt. But the mirror only showed a beautiful woman, with faint laugh lines around her eyes. "Good morning, Mom," Matthew burst into the kitchen as she was making breakfast. His innocent smile pierced her heart like a sharp needle of guilt. Claire hugged her son, breathing in the scent of his hair. For a fleeting moment, she wanted to end everything and return to her normal life. But then her phone vibrated quietly. A message from Ryan. "Good morning, sunshine. I can't wait to see you today." Claire quickly deleted the message, but her hands trembled slightly as she poured coffee. Everything in the office had changed since Ryan arrived. Every meeting, every look, every accidental touch seemed to electrify the air. They tried to maintain professionalism in public, but when alone, "Mrs. Miller, you have a meeting with Innovatech in the conference room," her assistant would say, never suspecting that these meetings often ended in secluded corners of the business center or in Ryan's car in the underground parking garage. Kelly tried to get through to her friend. "Claire, you're playing with fire. Think about Matthew. Think about Ethan." But Claire would only wave her off. "You don't understand, Kelly. With Ryan, I feel alive. Ethan, he's become a robot, obsessed with work." Ryan knew how to court a woman. A single rose left on her desk, accidental encounters at a cafe near the office, passionate late-night texts. He knew how to make her feel special. "Let's go to Boston for the weekend," he suggested one afternoon. "Just tell Ethan it's for a conference." Claire agreed without hesitation. Lying had become second nature. The words about yet another business trip slipped from her lips easily. In Boston, they stayed at a boutique hotel near Beacon Hill. 2 days flew by in a blur. Walks along the Charles River, dinners at candlelit restaurants, passionate nights in a room with a city view. But it was there, in Boston, that everything began to unravel. In the hotel lobby, Claire ran into the wife of one of Ethan's business partners. Both women pretended not to recognize each other, but Claire understood immediately. It was now only a matter of time. When they returned to New York, she became even more cautious. Now she and Ryan only met in distant parts of the city, used different ride shares, and never appeared together in public. But passion demanded more. More time, more lies. Matthew began crying at night, asking for his mom. Ethan often had dinner alone, staring at his wife's empty chair. Claire sank deeper into the whirlpool of forbidden love. "I love you," Ryan whispered one night as they lay in bed in yet another hotel. Claire said nothing, but her heart beat faster. Those words should have scared her. Instead, they filled her with euphoria. That evening, heading home, she didn't notice the black car following her rideshare, nor the man with the camera who captured her goodbye kiss with Ryan at the hotel's service entrance. At home, Ethan greeted her as usual, with a tired smile. "How was your day?" he asked without looking up from his laptop. "Good. Busy," she replied, the words catching in her throat. That night, lying beside her husband, Claire thought about how far things had gone. When a harmless flirtation had become an obsession, when lying had become easier than telling the truth, when the risk of losing everything felt like a fair trade for a few hours of passion. Meanwhile, in the office of a private investigator hired by Ethan, new photos, messages, and details were piling up. The net was closing in, but Claire, intoxicated by her secret affair, didn't sense the coming storm. She had no idea that her perfectly constructed world was about to collapse, and that the price for these months of passion
would be far higher than she could ever imagine.
The historic Waldorf Astoria stood tall over Park Avenue, guarding thousands of secrets belonging to New York's elite. It was here, in one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, that the meeting was set to take place, the meeting that would change everything. Claire nervously twisted the strap of her designer purse as she walked through the grand lobby. The front desk manager, Gregory Simmons, greeted her warmly. She didn't know that Gregory had been a close friend of Ethan's for years. "Room 742, ma'am," he said, handing her the electronic keycard. Claire hurried toward the elevator, unaware that Gregory discreetly pulled out his phone the moment she turned her back. Ryan was waiting in the room. "I ordered champagne," he smiled, pulling her into his arms. She let herself melt into his embrace, forgetting everything else. The last few months had turned their secret meetings into an addiction. At that very moment, in the hotel's security office, something unusual was happening. After receiving Gregory's message, the head of security activated a special surveillance protocol for room 742. "You're so beautiful," Ryan whispered, unbuttoning her blouse. Claire closed her eyes, giving in to the moment. The security cameras in the hallway silently recorded the time of their arrival. Special audio equipment captured every sound from inside the room. 2 hours later, when Claire descended into the lobby, her cheeks still burned with passion and shame. She had no idea that a copy of the surveillance footage had already been saved into a separate file. Gregory watched her leave, then dialed a familiar number. "Ethan?" "Yes, she was here, with a man. Everything's recorded, just as you asked." Ethan sat in his office, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at the email containing the video files. His hands trembled as he pressed play, each frame, each sound seared into his memory like a hot brand. His Claire, his wife, the mother of his child. He replayed the recording again and again, searching for the strength to accept reality. At that moment, the private investigator entered with a new folder of documents. "Mr. Miller, I have everything on Ryan Harris, his finances, connections, weak spots." Ethan slowly looked up from the screen. His eyes no longer showed pain, only cold, calculating rage. "Begin the operation," he said quietly. "They both need to pay." Meanwhile, Claire returned home, hugging her son, helping him with homework, making dinner. Just another ordinary evening in the Miller household. Ethan, she thought, would be late at work tonight. She had no idea that his important business was the beginning of her end. Every step, every call, every meeting she had with Ryan had been documented. The Waldorf Astoria security system had preserved not only the video of their meetings, but also recordings of their conversations inside the room. Ryan, too, was unaware of the danger. He was already planning their next meeting, never suspecting that his company would soon face sudden, devastating problems. Contracts falling apart, the IRS knocking on his door. That evening, Ethan met with powerful partners at a private club. "Everything's ready," one of them said. "The operation starts tomorrow." Ryan Harris wouldn't even know what hit him. Claire slept soundly that night, never realizing that she would wake up the next morning to the last day of her comfortable life. The morning began with a phone call. "Mr. Miller, we've gained access to Ryan Harris's bank statements," reported Victor Sullivan, the private investigator. "Every restaurant bill, every hotel charge, all documented. We also have surveillance footage from 5 different hotels." Ethan sat in his home office, methodically arranging printed photos and documents across his desk. Each piece of evidence was another stab to the heart. Claire stepping out of Ryan's car.
the two of them together at an upscale restaurant in Tribeca, a chance meeting in a shopping center. "Dad, can you help me with my math homework?" Matthew's voice made Ethan quickly shove the documents into the safe. "Of course, buddy. Give me 5 minutes." He glanced at a framed photo on his desk, the three of them smiling, happy, carefree. That was only a year ago. At the office, Ethan moved into action. First, he called in the head of corporate security. "I need full access to the marketing department's email and no trace left behind." An hour later, a folder appeared on his desktop. It contained Claire's email exchanges with Ryan. They had been careless, using their work emails for personal messages, thinking corporate policy would protect their privacy. Ethan read their words, feeling cold fury building inside him. "My love, I can't wait for our next night together. I miss your touch. Let's run away together." Every message was like a knife. Meanwhile, Victor was digging into Ryan's financials. "He's got big debts, Ethan, and several shady deals in his past." Ethan nodded. "That's exactly what we need." That evening, Claire called Ethan from work. "Honey, I'll be late. Important presentation." He knew she was lying. Security cameras in Ryan's building showed her getting into Ryan's car. Ethan opened his laptop and activated the tracker hidden in Claire's handbag. The GPS showed their route, straight to the Ritz-Carlton. "How cliché," he muttered, calling Victor. "Proceed as planned." As Claire and Ryan enjoyed their evening, the hotel security team, already instructed by Ethan, recorded every detail. At home, Ethan helped Matthew with homework, played chess with him, and read him a bedtime story. No one could have guessed the thoughts in his head. The next morning, Operation Clean Hands began. The IRS suddenly took an interest in Ryan's company. Banks began auditing his loans. Anonymous letters about his shady deals landed on the right desks. Claire noticed nothing. She lived in her world of passion and deceit, thinking her secret was safe. But every move she made was under Ethan's control. "Mr. Miller, we've gathered enough to act officially," the security chief reported. Ethan checked the time. The end game was close. He took a folder from the safe. Proof of Claire's infidelity, Ryan's financial crimes, recorded conversations. Everything was ready.
That evening at dinner, Ethan looked at his son and said casually, "Matt, tomorrow you're going to Grandma's for a few days." Matthew's face lit up. He loved staying at his grandmother's. Claire raised an eyebrow in surprise, but said nothing. She had no idea that tomorrow her life would collapse. The next morning, Ethan woke early, as always. Claire was still asleep, unaware this was her last peaceful morning. In the kitchen, he brewed coffee methodically. The phone rang. "Mr. Miller, the operation has started." Victor's voice was steady. "IRS is already in Harris's office. The banks have frozen his company's accounts." By lunchtime, Ryan Harris would go from respected CEO to prime suspect in large-scale financial fraud. "Honey, I have an important client meeting today," Claire said as she rushed out. Ethan knew clients meant Ryan. "Of course, sweetheart. Have a great day," he said, kissing her on the cheek, catching a trace of another man's cologne. At Nexafir headquarters, Phase 2 began. The company's security department accidentally discovered a leak of confidential information. All eyes turned toward the marketing department. "Mrs. Miller, security needs to see you immediately," Claire's assistant said nervously. Claire went pale but maintained her composure. She had no idea that tomorrow her life would collapse. At the same time, at Innovate Tech, chaos erupted. IRS auditors, bank investigators, and law enforcement officers arrived at the same time, paralyzing the company's operations. "Mr. Harris, you'll need to come with us," the lead investigator said firmly. Ryan tried to call Claire, but his phone was already seized as evidence. On social media, the first posts about Innovate Tech's troubles began to appear. The company's stock value plummeted. Partners pulled out of contracts one after another. "Mr. Miller, the news article is ready to publish," the editor of a major business outlet told Ethan. The piece on the corruption scandal was already laid out, complete with photos of Ryan and incriminating documents. Back in Nexafear's securities office, Claire sat staring at the evidence in front of her. Her hands trembled. How long has Ethan known? "Mrs. Miller, you'll need to resign immediately, or we'll send these materials to the board." At the same time, Ethan was in a closed-door meeting with partners. "Gentlemen, Innovate Tech is no longer our strategic partner. All contracts are terminated." By evening, headlines about Innovate Tech's collapse flooded the business news. Ryan Harris was in custody on suspicion of financial crimes. His spotless reputation was gone in a single day. Claire tried to call Ryan. No answer. She felt the ground giving way beneath her. "Mom, why are you crying?" Matthew's voice broke through her daze. She hadn't even realized she'd come home. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm just tired." That night, Ethan came home late. Without a word, he went to his study, took out a folder, and placed it in front of Claire. "We need to talk," he said coldly. As she opened it, page by page, her face drained of color. Photos, printed emails, bank statements, her secret life documented with terrifying precision. "Tomorrow, you'll get the divorce papers," Ethan said, as if discussing the weather. "Matthew stays with me. Your things are already packed." The plan had worked flawlessly. Ryan was ruined financially and publicly. Claire had lost her job, her family, and her place in society. The annual Nexsphere Corporate Gala was to be the final act of Ethan's plan. The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton was filling with guests, the elite of New York's business world. That morning, Claire had received an invitation delivered by courier. "Your presence is required," the note said, signed by Ethan. She knew it was a trap, but she had no choice. Across town, Ryan Harris was offered a deal by the lead investigator. "Mr. Harris, you can make a statement before your transfer to county jail." Before he could respond, his attorney handed him an official-looking envelope. "You've been invited to the Nexsphere Gala. Apparently, they want you to speak there." The investigator smirked. He knew this was part of the game. That night, the ballroom buzzed with chatter and champagne glasses clinking. Ethan looked flawless in a black Tom Ford tuxedo, greeting guests warmly. No one could guess the storm brewing beneath his calm demeanor. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention?" Ethan's voice cut through the room. "Tonight is not only a celebration of our company's success, it's also about revealing the truth." Claire stepped into the room just as he began his speech. She looked stunning. In a black evening gown, the last gift Ryan had given her. Guests parted for her, whispering behind her back. Nexsphere has always been built on integrity and transparency, but sometimes betrayal comes from within. On the massive screen behind him, the first photos appeared. Ryan being escorted into the ballroom under guard, still in a tailored suit, but now wearing handcuffs. The slideshow shifted to documents exposing his financial crimes. "Look at the man who tried to destroy what we've built for years," Ethan said, pointing at Ryan.
But he forgot the #1 rule of business: never betray your partner. Claire stood frozen as the images changed again, now showing her and Ryan in hotels, restaurants, and secluded meetings. Guests gasped. Some turned away, others stared hungrily at the scandalous images. And now, the personal side. Ethan's voice hardened. This betrayal was not only professional, it was human. Ryan tried to speak, but security silenced him immediately. Tears streamed down Claire's face. "Mr. Harris is charged with financial fraud," the investigator announced from the stage, "and he will be arrested here tonight, in front of witnesses." The journalists Ethan had invited recorded every moment. By morning, the story would be everywhere, destroying the last shreds of both Ryan's and Claire's reputations. "Goodbye, my love," Ethan said, his voice heavy with bitterness. "I hope it was worth it." Claire fled the ballroom, pushing past the crowd. Ryan was led away in handcuffs. Ethan remained on stage, watching them go. His revenge was complete.
A month passed after that unforgettable night. Ryan Harris sat in county jail awaiting trial. His company was bankrupt, assets frozen, reputation obliterated. The once celebrated businessman was now just another inmate in an orange jumpsuit. Claire had left New York after the public humiliation, moving to a small apartment in Boston under a different name, working at a modest local company, trying to start over. "Mr. Miller, the divorce papers are signed," Ethan's lawyer said, placing the folder on his desk. 10 years of marriage reduced to dry legal language. Matthew struggled without his mother. "Dad, why doesn't Mom call me anymore?" The question tore at Ethan's heart. He hired the best child psychologist to help his son cope. Nextsphere continued to thrive, posting record profits. Ethan buried himself in work, trying to silence the pain. His plan had been executed perfectly, yet the victory tasted bitter. One evening, while sorting through old photos, Matthew found one of the three of them smiling together. "Dad, doesn't Mom love us anymore?" The question made Ethan pause. What had been the cost of his revenge? Kelly, Claire's best friend, reached out to him. "She's suffering, Ethan, and Matthew needs his mother." But Ethan stayed firm. Betrayal can't be forgiven. A letter arrived from Ryan in jail. "I deserved my punishment, but Claire, she just got caught up with me." Ethan tore it up without reading further. Time passed. The media forgot the scandal. New headlines replaced the old ones, but the storm inside Ethan hadn't settled. Every night, putting Matthew to bed, he saw the boy's longing for his mother. One day, his secretary brought a note. "Your ex-wife requests to see Matthew." He stared at the familiar handwriting, now strange and distant. Matthew's grades were slipping. His teacher reported growing withdrawal and anger. "The child needs his mother," the words echoed in his mind. On Matthew's birthday, Claire sent a gift, the Lego set he'd wanted for months. He thought about throwing it away, but when he saw the joy on his son's face, he couldn't. "Dad, can I call Mom?" That question forced Ethan to make a difficult decision. Revenge had been served, but at what price? He arranged a meeting at a neutral place, a children's activity center. Matthew ran to his mother, forgetting everything else. Claire sobbed as she hugged him. Ryan was later sentenced to 8 years in prison. The news barely made a ripple. The world had already moved on. His story became a quiet warning. Don't play with other people's lives.
Ethan allowed Claire to see Matthew once a week. "Only for Matthew's sake," he said. But as he watched his son's happy face, he realized, revenge doesn't bring the past back. Time heals even the deepest wounds. Ethan learned to live differently. His company thrived, his son slowly recovered, and the pain of betrayal began to fade. "Dad, I love you," told him one evening. Those words saved him. For his son, he was willing to let go of the past, to learn to forgive and live on. Claire never returned to New York high society. Her new life was modest, but it had one thing that mattered most: the chance to see her son. She understood the price of her mistakes. The story ended with a lesson carved deep into all their lives. Revenge can be sweet, but its cost can be far too high. The true victory lies not in destroying your enemy, but in keeping your humanity.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with friends. And remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Until next time.